What's going on, guys? What's the deal, sports? Zach Deal back here again with a special edition of the Pies on Sports podcast. We're going to be going over and watching the NBA lottery draft show and seeing where the Sixers end up with their pick. They needed to land in the top six for them to retain their pick. If not, that pick will be sent to the Oklahoma City Thunder from a trade back in the day that involved Al Horford. So obviously, we know how the Al Horford situation ended up playing out. It wasn't what the Sixers expected. They didn't get a lot from him, and then they had to attach a draft pick to get him out of town on the contract that they signed him, only for him to go back to Boston and continue to be a big piece of their playoff run as one of the older players in the NBA. So obviously, that wasn't the best trade in the world, but this is uncharted territory for the Sixers in quite some time. In the past decade, this is the first time in quite some time, I would say. I think off the top of my head, 8 or 9 years, the Sixers actually haven't been in the playoffs competing. So with the expectations of what was supposed to transpire last season, signing Paul George in the offseason, getting off the Tobias Harris contract, and just thinking that things were going to turn around real quickly and still be a contender. Obviously, those things didn't happen. The Sixers went into last season as the third best betting odds to win the title, and they ended up with the fifth worst record in the entire league. So that just kind of shows on paper it always just doesn't go exactly how you think it's going to go. So, but this is a huge moment for the Sixers because if they're able to retain their pick, even if it's not the number one overall pick, which they have a slight chance, I think a 10% chance of landing total, as they do pretty much every pick in front of them. Of where their record landed. They have a 10% shot. They have a 64% shot, a little bit over a 64% shot of retaining their pick and it being a top six pick. So they just need two teams um, not to grab that pick and jump ahead of them in the 14 teams that are in the NBA draft lottery. And the Sixers have also done really good with just drafting guys in the middle rounds, like last year, how their pick was in the teens after the disappointing playoff series versus the Knicks. And they ended up getting Jared McCain, who showed a lot of promise before being injured for the entire season. And they might not have ended up with a pick or potential to have a pick this high if Jared McCain plays the entire season. So that kind of shows the situation that we're in. I mean, they had um, four of their top players missed significant time last year. Obviously, the storyline for the Sixers in the past decade has been the health of Joel Embiid and the situation with that. But I feel like this is a situation to where this asset could play huge dividends, regardless of what the situation is with Paul George or Joel Embiid. This asset will be able to be used if they acquire the pick, and I'm just really excited even if it's not the number one overall pick, like we talked about, only having a 10% chance, they're going to be able to land a top level player that they can add to the rotation. Daryl Morey actually just went on WIP host Spike Askins, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Um, and I had a chance to listen to it over the weekend. Recently went on there last week. I forget exactly which date it was. But I'm not exactly sure how much I can take away as the truth with Daryl Morey from that situation because I feel like there was a lot of questions that were asked that he kind of has to, just get the public PR type look to, but he can't answer like if a team is going to offer him assets for Paul George or Joel Embiid. Would he entertain that? Obviously, he's not going to outright say, "Yeah, I would entertain that," because that's not a good look for him or the player, or that could just ruffle some feathers. And he said that he's committed to both of those guys, but where this pick ends up could really change some things. And maybe you could package a pick that ends up in the top five and not the number one overall pick. People believe that there's star level talent outside of like a top three guys, like the Rutgers kids, and obviously Cooper Flag, who's going to consensuously go number one. You have Dylan Harper. I'm talking about the Rutgers kids, and Ace Bailey. Those are pretty much the three prospects that are looked at as one, two, and three. If you feel like outside of those three guys, there's not a guy there, and you want to trade that pick and maybe get a proven player and maybe package away one of these bad contracts that you believe might age even worse as time goes on, you could do that as well. So this is going to give the Sixers just a lot of flexibility and options um, for what they can do. So they still have draft picks from the Clippers trade that they made to get rid of James Harden, which they took on a bunch of expiring contracts, which opened up some cap space that they ended up spending on Paul George. Talking about that Daryl Morey podcast that he went on to, he was talking about players in the rotation, young guys specifically, that really carved a role out for themselves, like the Jared McCains of the world, the Justin Edwards, Dean Bona, Justin Edwards being an undrafted rookie who they signed this past season, Dean Bona being their second round pick, Jared McCain being their first round pick from last season. Some of those type of guys, they're going to be sticking around, and obviously Quentin Grimes that they acquired at the trade deadline to get out of the Caleb Martin contract with the Dallas Mavericks. So those are four young guys that are definitely going to be in the mix for the Sixers. He also said that Andre Drummond is going to be back, and most likely Kyle Lowry. Like I said, I don't know how much stock I can put into that because of he's not going to say certain things about the roster right now, not knowing where this pick ends up. It's going to be shaped, but I really do actually think that he wants to not be wrong with Paul George and Joel Embiid with the contracts that he gave those guys and wants to stick with them. So we'll see how it goes. But if you're somehow able to land the number one overall pick, I don't see a world where it sounds good on paper to have Paul George and Cooper Flag on the same roster, but I feel like that would give me more incentive to just get rid of Paul George and just hand the keys to Cooper Flag and let it be done that way. That just also gives the flexibility to have another, top number one type talent on your roster where Joel Embiid doesn't have the premise to where he always has to play and feel he has to be out there all the time. He can kind of slow play it a little bit and get through these injuries that he's dealing with. So we don't even know if Joel Embiid's ever going to play basketball again. I don't like to say it like that. That's the way that a lot of people are looking at it because they believe that the injuries have piled up to a significant point at this point. But we'll have to say this, he has to get the knee right. The meniscus has been bothering him for a while. It's something that's been one of the more nagging injuries that he's had in his career. But landing a top talent in the draft at the age of 18 or 19 can take a lot of pressure off Joel Embiid to where he doesn't have to be out on the court, and the Sixers can still survive with him out on the court because last year those plus minus numbers were actually significantly down. They were actually nowhere near where they were in the past, but if you didn't count last season, the Sixers in the past with Joel Embiid on the roster but not out on the court have been a significantly worse team than when he is out on the court. So, yeah, it's really exciting what potentially could happen. I just wish they weren't in the situation where we don't even have to worry about like they're going to get a top pick for the season, but it could also pile on to where the season could get a lot worse if they lose this pick tonight and they don't have this asset. So we'll see. That's kind of just the overview of the situation that we're currently in. So I'm excited to see in the next 10 minutes where this pick lands, and yeah, we'll just write it out from there. So if anybody that's watching this right now has any comments, we're actually supposed to be doing this on the Elevation 5280 Sports account. I reached out to Mike beforehand because I was trying to get onto their StreamYard account to be able to go live on their platforms, but he didn't answer me back. So just as a precaution, I started the live on there. So if he does answer me, I'll try and make it over to there. If not, I'll send this podcast over to him, and he'll be able to post it onto those sites so everybody can see it. He's a Denver sports fan, so he's in a lot better situation basketball-wise than the Sixers are in with the Nuggets in that series as big underdogs versus the Thunder, who are the number one team in the entire league, then the Cavs in each conference. But they're both struggling a little bit in their series. But Oklahoma City was actually able to tie it yesterday, the series at 2-2. So they also had that huge blowout win in Game 2. So that series might go 7, and that has been a really, really interesting series. Because when you have like a team like the Thunder were obviously the number one team in the conference and the number one team in the entire league, have the MVP most likely on their roster. but you also have a guy in Nikola Jokic that has won the MVP award 3 out of the last 4 or 5 years and is a three-time MVP himself, arguably the best overall player in the entire world. And when you look at the series odds and they're 4 times the money plus 400 to win the series, I can't help myself but to bet on that. So uh, I've been betting in the favor of the Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. has been dealing with an injury. Aaron Gordon's been stepping up. Jamal Murray's looked really good. But one thing about the overlying thing outside of that huge blowout that the Thunder put up like 150 points in game two on the Nuggets, this has really been OG basketball that we've seen throughout all these playoff series between the Knicks and the Celtics, barely reaching 100 every night. Uh, the Thunder to tie up the series 2-2 that I just alluded to a little bit ago. That game ended 92 to 87. So we're seeing OG basketball happen, and it's kind of refreshing. And a lot of people are pointing to the fact that the fouls are they're not really calling too many fouls. They're letting it be very physical out there in OG basketball. So all that flopping, all that type of stuff, guys aren't getting benefits of the calls that they used to in the regular season. It's a different dynamic that they have to deal with. So it's been some good NBA playoffs, but for a team like the Sixers that had high aspirations, like we talked about, third best betting odds to win the title, and they're in the situation where they're being represented in the lottery right now. Jared McKinnon's out there representing them, their number one draft pick from last year, the first round draft pick. This is what fans like me of the Sixers have to hang their hat on. So we'll see. They're announcing the people that are representing the picks for each team. The Rockets had a good season, ended up the second seed in the Western Conference, lost in the first round to the Warriors, but they have a 3.8% chance to still land the number one overall pick. They have Hakeem Olajuwon actually representing them tonight. So 3.8% chance is the second seed. I mean, that's also just like the Thunder could get the highest pick from the Sixers being the seventh overall pick, because if it's anything in the top six, the Sixers get it. But if it's the seventh overall pick, the Thunder could make it to the finals, potentially win the NBA Finals, and end up with the seventh overall pick in the draft. So imagine the season that would be. And that would be something where I would assume that they would trade that pick. Because I remember when the Warriors tried to throw James Wiseman. There's Jared McKean representing the Sixers. Zion Williamson representing the Pelicans, who have a slightly better chance to land the number one overall pick than the Sixers do. But I remember when the Warriors were in their championship window run and they had the draft pick, the second overall pick with James Wiseman. That was the infamous when they worked out Anthony Edwards, and Steve Kerr said he needs to work on his work ethic and he's not working hard enough out here. That was that draft. But they tried to usher in James Wiseman. It didn't work. They've also tried to usher in Moses Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga as up two other lottery picks that the Warriors had during their championship window, and those haven't worked out exactly how they thought they would. So I feel like a team like that, like a Thunder, if they end up with this pick, would there's a good chance that that pick could be on the move for a veteran type player, or they could just stockpile it. I mean, the Thunder are still benefiting from one of the craziest trades, the Paul George trade ever, and they could benefit from Paul George further and even more from the season. It's funny, from the team that he's currently on, by getting the pick from them. So, and here we are. We're about to start. Spurs get 14. Atlanta Hawks for number 13. I'm starting to get really nervous right now, like something weird's about to happen to the Sixers, but Chicago Bulls get pick 12. Portland gets pick 11. The Houston Rockets at pick 10. Whew. Ninth pick goes to the Toronto Raptors. We're getting closer. Spurs and the Mavericks are in the top four officially. Brooklyn Nets pick 8. Pelicans pick 7. Wizards pick 6. They mispronounced the Sixers being out. That's why my heart dropped, but I didn't say anything. It didn't react. So now Sixers are in the top four. The Sixers are in the top four. The Utah Jazz. Okay, now we're talking business here. The Sixers. Here we go. Oh man, here we go, baby. So we have the Charlotte Hornets, the Sixers, the Spurs, and the Mavericks. Oh my, here we go. Here we go. Woo! Oh man, I'm shaking right now, honestly. This is a huge moment. And they pan to Cooper Flag on the broadcast specifically after it was announced the Sixers officially made it into the top four and he smirked. So I don't know if there's, what's going on with that or if he's eyeing up a team specifically in here. All right, so the way we're going through the commercial breaks, these are some commercials that you might remember for a while. I remember when the Nuggets drafted Nikola Jokic, the infamous Taco Bell commercial, but you know, we don't have any Cooper Flag advertisements that could be running here or any, subliminal ties to Philadelphia, but this is a situation as a Sixers fan we can feel crazy. But for a team like the Utah Jazz, that's unbelievable to fall out of the top four picks like that. That's really heartbreaking. The Dallas Mavericks are actually in the top four as well. So the Dallas Mavericks are able to land um, one of those picks for the number one overall pick after getting rid of Luka Doncic and recoup and get Cooper Flag. That would be uh, very interesting. That'd be a really good roster to add somebody like him to when they get back healthy. That'd be a very interesting team. He could really fit in with what Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis does from day one. So, two worst teams in the league: the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards get picked 5 and 6. That's brutal. It's just the way this feels like the longest commercial of my life. So now the situation is the fourth pick. If you get the fourth pick, there is a chance that you can trade it. But like we talked about, you're in range of getting one of these top three guys with the two Rutgers kids or Cooper Flag, then you probably keep this pick and you run it. A lot of people ask, like, does Dylan Harper fit onto this roster because you already have two guards? But the issue with Jared McKean and Tyrese Maxey is they're both 6'1", um, and Dalen Harper being a guard, he's also like 6'6", so he has really good size. Quentin Grimes can come off the bench for you. Jeremy Kane can come off the bench for you. He could fit into your starting lineup and handle the ball. Um, and that I feel like he could seamlessly fit. And when you are in the top three of the draft, you don't want to be trying to pinpoint a position like, oh, I'm not going to draft this position, and this guy's more talented, but I need this position, so I'm going to draft this instead. No, you got to take the best player that's in front of you. So I would Dylan Harper, I think, would fit with the Sixers roster really well. Ace Bailey, I think, would fit even better because, I mean, it's the most important position in the league, that 3 or 4 that just has crazy size, that's able to shoot over the top of everybody. I know it loosely gets thrown out there like the next Kevin Durant, but he actually does have a lot of Kevin Durant-esque traits to him. So I would probably lean Ace Bailey a little bit over Dylan Harper, but Dylan Harper's actually projected to go in front of him. But it really, I guess, depends on the team, and then Cooper Flag can set just the number one. So they're showing Nick Nurse, Elton Brand, and Daryl Morey. So here we go. We're back from commercial. San Antonio Spurs are also back here, just traded for De'Aaron Fox. Chris Paul's on the roster. We're probably going to wrap it up soon. You got Wemby. The blood clot got shut down, but that'd be crazy for them to land the number one pick. The Charlotte Hornets get the 4th pick, so the Sixers have a chance here. All right, we'll take the 3rd pick. We'll take the 3rd pick. So the Mavericks get the number 1 overall pick. So Nico Harrison, the redemption story of the year. The real question is, with how unpredictable Nico Harrison is Cooper Flag guaranteed going to go number 1 overall? All right, so the Sixers end up with the 3rd overall pick in the draft. That's a huge asset for the Sixers to use this offseason. I'm very happy. They could have easily went to where the Sixers didn't have, you know, this pick at all and gave it to the Thunder. Worst case scenario, and coming off the season that the Sixers had, I'll take the 3rd pick, and I think that's a massive, massive win. So it's probably going to come down to Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper throughout these. I know Trey Johnson was somebody that got thrown around. The guy from Texas, but I don't see him leapfrogging Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey in this process at all. So if you can end up with Ace Bailey, man, I feel so good. So that was thrilling for sure. There was a lot of suspense. It happened really quickly, too, besides the commercial breaks. It felt like they took forever, but when it actually happens, a lot of wrapping it up. It's only a 30-minute show to begin with, so they're interviewing Cooper Flag right now. I mean, it's we're in the territory of like Victor Wembanyama, where he's guaranteed to going to be the number one overall pick. But also in those years, I think the prospects behind him, Cooper Flag is the best prospect for sure. But this is also the closest that the other prospects have been to a consensus number one overall picks talent wise. So I mean, he's got his other Duke teammate, Con Knipple, who's a top 6 to 7 consensus rated prospect who's gonna go in the lottery as well. That was somebody that I targeted if the Sixers got like the fifth or the sixth overall pick. That could be a guy that you could just plug in right away. Might not have the ceiling to be a superstar, but he's a really clean player and can help you out a lot. So, like I said, I think it's going to come down to making a decision on one of the Rutgers players, but we're going to watch the Celtics next right after this to top Eastern Conference teams. Obviously, the Celtics benefited from the lottery years back and haven't looked back from then, getting Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in the top three when the Sixers, Lakers, and Celtics all picked in the top three numerous years in a row. So, but thank you guys for tuning it in tonight. Me and Dante will be back later on this week with episode 98 of the Pies on Sports podcast to react to the draft lottery and also some other things going on in the Philadelphia sports between uh, the Phillies and the Philadelphia Eagles. So thank you guys for tuning in once again, and we'll see you later on